In the last few months, we have seen increasing tension between China and Taiwan, followed by unprecedented military exercises. Taiwan has witnessed many Chinese missile launches across the Taiwan Strait in the recent months, and there have been many Chinese military aircrafts entering Taiwan's airspace. Invading Taiwan would have catastrophic consequences for markets and the economy. Why is Taiwan so important to China? Will Xi Jinping ignite a full-scale invasion, and what impact would it have on the world economy? And finally, what would be the US response to the attack? These are the questions I'm going to answer in this video, so stay tuned.
以和平方式实现祖国统一，最符合包括台湾同胞在内的中华民族整体利益。任何人都不要低估中国人民捍卫国家主权和领土完整的。
So why would China risk a global recession which would heavily impact China itself or Taiwan? To find out, we have to go back into the history a little bit. After Second World War, civil war broke out between the Nationalist Party and the Communist Party. When the leader of the Communist Party, Mao Zedong, declared victory in 1949, the Nationalist Party fled to Taiwan. After this event, the Communist Party stated that Taiwan is still part of China mainland and that unifying Taiwan has been on Communist agenda ever since 1949. It's becoming an increasingly critical issue for the Chinese government as many people see Taiwan as unfinished business. After the China GDP dropped from double-digit growth to 2.3% after COVID-19 pandemic, Xi Jinping's propaganda is focused on presenting strong, capable China with a strong, capable leader. This all would be broken if Beijing decided to attack on Taiwan. Another fundamental reason why China cares a lot about Taiwan is a company called Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, and its producer of the most advanced super small chips in the world. The size of the chips is currently 4 nanometers, which is 10 times thinner than a human hair. Firms such as Apple, AMD, Nvidia, Tesla, and many Chinese companies rely directly on TSMC's production. One of the reasons why China wants to invade Taiwan is to be able to control the production of those chips. When Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan earlier this year, Beijing sanctioned Taiwan by suspending import of citrus products and fish from Taiwan. Now, do you think they suspended Taiwanese chips as well? Well, yeah, you got it. They didn't because they rely on them like everybody else. TSMC's chip production reaches 85% of the most advanced chip production around the world, so TSMC is effectively a monopoly. Also, the shipping routes going through Taiwan Strait are one of the most crucial routes worldwide. Shipping cargo from major Asian manufacturing hubs to markets in Europe, the US, and everywhere in between mostly travel through the Taiwan Strait. Some of the world's largest and busiest ports such as Ningbo, Guangzhou, Shanghai and Shenzhen are all on the coast across the Taiwan Strait. So effectively, who controls the Taiwan Strait, controlling a significant chunk of the world's trade. First of all, it's important to understand that if Beijing decides to invade Taiwan, it would have enormous economic, diplomatic and political consequences for China itself. The moment Xi Jinping tries to reunite with Taiwan by force, it's likely to fracture global geopolitics and economics far beyond today's status quo. China would become a more isolated country, and it would make their ambition to become the world superpower #1 extremely difficult. In case of direct attack, China would actually start war right by the shore of one of the most significant economic provinces in the country. Invasion on Taiwan could take place only during 2 or 3 weeks time window in either spring or fall, when the tidal situation is suitable. Some analysts say that Taiwan land invasion would be more dangerous and complex than the D-Day invasion on 6th of June 1944 in Normandy, as Chinese forces could land only on few numbers of beaches which are appropriate for such an invasion. In order to conduct successful annexation, China would have to move thousands of tanks, armored vehicles, rocket launchers and artillery guns together with the troops across the Taiwan Strait, which would be a dangerous mission itself. From logistic point of view, it would be extremely risky as a load of ships with war weaponry and troops would have to wait for their turn, which would make them an easy target for Taiwanese anti-ship missiles. There is also a possibility of an air war. China would have obvious advantage with its 1,600 aircrafts against 300 on the Taiwan side, but Taiwan has a deal with United States to supply with the Stinger anti-craft missiles and Patriot missiles defense batteries. Taiwan also invested time and money into their own missile production, and they have managed to triple its production in the last 3 years. The evidence shows that Chinese army would have the capability to fully invade Taiwan even with the US help, but it would be at high cost, which I don't really think that is what Xi Jinping wants. If China invades Taiwan, it would stop or at least slow down cargo vessels going through the Taiwan Strait, which would probably reflect on the Chinese GDP a few months later. Vessels would have to be diverted from their intended course, causing lengthy delays and increasing transportation costs. Carriers and manufacturers would have to find alternative solutions how to avoid Taiwan Strait but satisfy customers' demands at the same time. Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party understand that full-scale invasion on Taiwan is a daunting strategic task, and it would take a lot of political consequences as well. A direct attack on Taiwan means that China would be subjected to the US and international sanctions, which would result in a worldwide shortages. If China chooses to impose an air or maritime blockade on Taiwan, there would be a direct impact on markets around the world. This would most likely cause a massive trade disruption, which would trigger a biggest global recession we have ever seen. In the past 20 years, China's government's main focus was to create job opportunities, to bring people from farms into the cities, to help to create the biggest economy in the world. The primary focus has shifted a couple of years ago from creating jobs to strengthening the Chinese currency yuan to be able to compete with American dollar. I'm not really sure China would gamble all this for Taiwan. Yes, it means a lot to Xi Jinping and it's a matter of national pride, but it would be nothing but a narrow victory. Joe Biden declared that the US would help to defend Taiwan against the Chinese invasion. President Biden said, "We agree with what we signed on to a long time ago." Then later in the interview, Biden has been directly asked whether US will help defend Taiwan against Chinese invasion. He said, "Yes, if in fact there was an unprecedented attack." The US would probably deploy sea and air forces to help Taiwan defend itself against a much larger army. US Navy and the Air Force would be called from the closest US bases such as Okinawa and Guam. US submarines would start chasing Chinese vessels around Taiwan Strait, which would make it extremely difficult for invasion itself. The Strait of Malacca is a crucial spot connecting the Indian and Pacific Ocean. Through this strait, China imports about 80% of all hydrocarbon supplies into the country, so in the case of conflict with Taiwan, Malacca Strait blockade would be the US forces' priority number one. As we know, China is very susceptible to oil volatility, which would have a knock-on effect on the whole Chinese economy. If Beijing decides to go down with a full-scale invasion, China would have gained Taiwan but sacrificed its larger ambition of becoming a global and comprehensive superpower. This is the very definition of a narrow victory. Some of the evidence shows that Xi Jinping will strike in 2024. If that's the case, China will take visible steps to prepare the economy, military and essential industries for the disruption and sanctions. We would also witness a stockpiling of ammunition, food, water, fuel, medications and other key aspects to fight a modern-style war. In 2019, trade between China and Taiwan was worth around $150 billion, and more than 60% of China trades goes via sea. So any open conflict in Taiwan Strait would mean disaster for the Chinese economy. United States know it wouldn't take much to step on China's neck. The potential danger of economic decline, sanctions and further isolation from the outside world isn't an ideal justification for an annexation with Taiwan. I think they will try to go around in much less violent ways. I think the Chinese government really wants to demonstrate a power and capabilities to impose a blockade around the island, to drain Taiwan from resources such as food, fuel and medications, to force Taiwan to reunite with the Chinese mainland. Even though that all odds favors not to invade Taiwan, the increasing isolation of Xi Jinping and the Communist Party is getting more and more unpredictable. But I still believe that military actions against Taiwan would mean a bigger disaster for China than for anybody else involved. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and liking this video, and I'll see you in the next one.